everyone. I'm Tara from the Teach Without Tears blog and Teachers Pay Teachers store. And the past few weeks here, we have been talking about things that you can do now to get ready for the next school year, even though there's so much still up in the air. I know more districts are now making their decisions about what fall is going to look like. Some schools will be completely back in the classroom with safety precautions. Others are going to be doing a hybrid model, either certain days in school and certain days learning at home, or a week at school and then a week at home. And others are doing complete distance learning. So no matter what your school is doing, there are some things that you can start doing now to get ready for going back to school. And today we are going to be talking about reflection. During the school year, you are so busy moving from one thing to the next, planning every lesson, getting ready for the next day, that there's usually not a whole lot of time to go back and reflect on the lessons you've done. So summer is a great time to do that. We have extra time now that we're at home, and since we can't really go a whole lot of places, this is a great time to start thinking about next year and what changes you want to make to the subjects that you teach. So what I do is I actually jot it down. I'm a paper and pencil person. You could certainly type this up on the computer, but I just have my teaching reflection and I choose a subject. I do it subject by subject just because that lets me focus in on a specific area, and then I can see what I want to do to improve that area and what I really liked that I was already doing. So let's just go through a few things that you can think about as you are reflecting on this past school year. And you're going to kind of have to do it double for this past school year because you're going to have to think back to before March when we were actually in the classroom. What were things that were going really well? And then once you started distance learning, what went well with that? And what changes do you want to make if you're going to be doing distance learning again when we go back to school? So first of all, choose your subject. I'm just going to use math as my example for right now. And the first thing you want to do, just like you do with your students, we always want to start with something positive. So think about what went really well when you were teaching math last year. What were some things that you really enjoyed or things that really worked with your students? For me, it's always been using manipulatives. Having hands-on things for my students to do is always a plus, and they always seem to understand the concept better when they're working with something physical. The second thing that I love about math instruction is guided math. Using small groups for that math instruction really lets me meet the needs of all of my students. So guided math and having those different rotations is definitely something that's worked well for me. I have a Meet With Me center, there's a technology center, and there's a problem solving center. And my students go to each one each day to practice the skill that they've been working on. So those are two positives for me. On my reflection sheet, I have 3 lines. If I don't really have a third one, that's okay. And then things that I would like to change for next school year. So now we're going to think about those things worked really well. You don't want to change anything about those first things. Now we're going to think about what were some things that didn't work so well, some things that you could maybe improve upon for the next school year. So thinking about math again, I would like to think about how I can differentiate my lessons even more. Guided math is really differentiated, but that technology center is the one where I kind of had everybody doing a similar thing. I'd like to explore more different math programs for next year. And if you caught last week's video, we actually dug into that a little bit more and looked at some of the best math websites to use, either for distance learning or in your classroom if you're back in the classroom in the fall. So that's something that I would like to work on that I can do right now over the summer to start preparing for next year so that that technology center is more differentiated. Each student is working on something that he or she needs rather than doing the same thing the whole class is doing. And there are amazing math websites for that level the students and give them practice at their own level. And that is super helpful for meeting that goal. The next question is, did your students make the progress that you wanted to see? Now for this year, that might be a little bit hard to judge because of ending the school year with distance learning. Normally, you could look at any state testing scores that you got back to see if they were doing well. We would have done an extra assessment at the end of the year on everything to see if they understood what we taught this year and were ready for the next grade level. This past year, a lot of that probably didn't happen. So you're just going to have to go by what you do know and what you saw from your students and their progress to assess whether or not they made the progress you wanted. The next question is, how could you add more differentiation to your lessons? So think about how you differentiated last year, and then think about how can you even get more detailed with your specific students and what they need. One thing I really like doing is using morning work. That is kind of a spiral review. It goes over lots of different things we've covered during the year. And that kind of gives me an idea of concepts I need to go back to and differentiate more by pulling those students who still need help with 3-digit subtraction or those who don't understand measuring. I can pull them then in small groups to review those concepts without having to do it whole class, because some of my class did get those questions correct and do understand how to do it. So pulling those small groups, even more small groups than what guided math does, is going to be another way to further differentiate. And then the last question is, what resources do you need to make those changes? Because you don't want to get to the beginning of the school year and be all excited and ready to implement, but then you don't have what you need in order to do it. So summer is also a great time to figure out what you need and to start getting it. So for me, it's those math websites. So I need to do my research and see, are they free? Can I use the free version to get the results that I want? Or do I need a paid version, in which case I either need to start communication with my administrators about that, or I need to see if there's a single class subscription that I could get. So thinking about what you need in order to do that. Maybe you need more math manipulatives. So you can go onto a Facebook group and see if any teachers are trying to get rid of any, or start looking at garage sales. I know there's always different little things that I find in garage sales for a really great price that I can then use in my classroom. So start gathering those resources that you need in order to make the changes that you want to make. And that way your lessons will be even better when we go back to school. Whether it's in the classroom or distance learning, you can always make improvements to what you've been doing through reflection. So if you would like my reflection sheet, this is going to be available in the Rock the Reading Workshop group. I'm going to be going live in there at 11 a.m. tomorrow, and I'm going to be running through this with a reading lesson. So I would love for you to join me over there. The link is in my bio if you're watching on Instagram. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, the link is in the description for the video. I hope to see you over there, and I hope that you are able to reflect and find ways to improve your lessons for next school year. I will see you back here next weekend. Bye.